Hello and welcome to Oh the Horror, where we all go a little mad sometimes. I'm Jack Ellis,
And I'm Matt Ellis.
and today we are going to be reviewing the newly released 2022 psychological thriller, The Menu, starring Anya Taylor-Joy. And this ever since its release on streaming has received a lot of praise and reviews and video essays. So why don't we throw our hat in the ring and get our thoughts out in the world? So, yeah. Do you want to narrate or should I?
You can if you want.
Okay. We start with Margot, who is an escort, and she is being taken by Tyler to an island / restaurant called Hawthorne via boat. And they're there to spend the afternoon trying different upper class foods. They are joined by three businessmen, Bryce, David, and Soren, and one unnamed actor and his assistant, a food critic. His assistant, excuse me. A food critic, her editor named Ted, a rich couple, Anne and Richard, and Chef Slovic's mother. And this part of the movie is all about the introductions and getting to know these characters. And one thing that we sort of learn throughout, but especially here, is that barring Margot, all of them are kind of assholes. But I don't know if there's really much to say for this beginning part. Do you have anything?
No, I don't really have anything to say about the beginning part. I kind of did like how, even though it's a suspenseful movie, they did just kind of jump to them going and being on the island, and they went to their, backstories later and everything, so I did appreciate that.
Yeah.
And, also, it's probably worth mentioning that it's not only a restaurant on an island, it's also a farm, because all of the food they serve at the restaurant is comes from the island itself, whether they grow it, raise it, gather it, just that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And when they arrive at the island, they're given a tour where they see that all the food served at the restaurant comes from the island itself, like you said. Afterwards, they're seated at a pristine dining room and are brought 4 courses, one of which includes tacos, where the tortilla bread has laser engraved images of the sins the customers committed that caused them to be lured there. For example, it showed evidence of financial fraud that David, Bryce, and Soren committed. It also showed Richard cheating on his wife with Margot. This is when it gets suspicious. So, once we get to the dining room, I think a lot of people, including myself, have all been to a restaurant like this. It's sort of the fancy, sleek sort of thing. And I really like the design of the dining room. And our main antagonist, Chef Slowick, is... he takes a lot of, he puts a lot of effort into his craft. And he wants his guests to enjoy it, but he realizes that all of his guests are not there for the food, they're just there for status. And first they start with bread with a bunch of dipping sauces, but there's no bread because bread is primarily reserved for the poor, and they are anything but that. And that's kind of funny to me. And then what is it? There's some roasted chicken in some
There's a rock that he actually he serves them a rock that he also seasons it with something that dissolves it so it's edible, but yeah, it's still kind of outrageous if you ask me.
Yeah, and there's a really funny scene where the food critic is talking about a broken emulsion, and every so often the chefs will bring out just a bigger bowl of a broken emulsion, which I think is funny, but it sort of brings to light how they really can't seem to take criticism very well. And then it's the roasted chicken with a pair of kitchen shears in it. And he tells a story of how his mother was abused by his drunk dad, and to stop him one night, he stabbed him in the thigh with a pair of kitchen shears. And he also serves this with the incriminating tortillas. God, that's a sentence I never thought I'd say. And yeah, so this is the point where you realize all this is meant to expose these people for who they are. And I think it's a good psychological thriller in a way, because it's just people who have done really bad things, and you know that no person deserves what happens to them, but you also kind of feel like they're getting their just desserts, and so
Pun intended.
yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, so I did like that element. I actually didn't intend that pun, but I just, I guess things work out that way sometimes.
And I mean, if it's
sorry.
okay.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, like, I don't know if maybe that what they were doing, that idea of just like serving bread dippings but no bread, like just with how ridiculous that kind of stuff was, how it's if that's maybe like satirical of fancy restaurants nowadays, where like they make it sound like it's about the art, and that's why it's like really expensive, but it's, I mean, like they'll serve you a plate that's maybe the food takes up, like, I don't know, you could fit the entree, all of it in your hand easily, and they'll charge you like $100 for it, just, and maybe it was kind of satirizing that, because, it's like, that's just ridiculous, and it's like, that idea of them, serving bread, like, serving bread without the bread, I get what the chef was saying, but still, like, that's just stupid in my opinion, no matter how deep he's able to make it sound.
Yeah,
so.
it's sort of the faux intellectualism of some of these places that, like, I mean,
the pretentiousness, really.
Yeah, like, how are you supposed to, like, have a bread course that's lack of bread? Are they just supposed to stare at an empty plate? I mean, they say at the beginning that they're paying, what, $2,500 a person or something? $1,200, yeah. And, like, God, for that amount, you'd think they could at least get some bread or something, but...
Right, it's like, I get it, cooking it's an art, it's a science, but it's like, let's not maybe reach too much with...
Yeah.
But, yeah, and I... it's like, and everybody at the restaurant seemed to think a lot of it was stupid, too. I mean, like, not a single course was served without, some murmuring that accompanied it.
Yeah, and, like, you can sort of get the whiff of, like, they're mad because they're rich, entitled assholes, but also the sense that, like, if I paid $1,200 for an exclusive dinner experience that I thought would have some bread, I better get some goddamn bread.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so... Anyway, so there are Japanese plants that are placed over a white sheet, and or I guess it's plastic sheets. I don't really know.
I don't know.
And if you watch Dexter. You know that plastic sheets can never be good in a movie like this. So, one of the chefs is brought out. It's the sous chef, I believe. Slowick explains that the man has dedicated his life to cooking. He is still not great, and he wants to be like Slowick, but he does not want his life. And so, Slowick hands him a gun, and he shoots himself in the head. And it's here, the whole movie, you've thought something is a bit off with the staff, and you couldn't really pinpoint what it was. When I first saw the trailer for this movie, I thought it would just be like they're just serving the guests people, but they don't know that they're eating people.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought too.
Yeah, but that was honestly, I kind of like this better because that to me felt too reminiscent of something like Hannibal or like Silence or Texas Chainsaw or something to that effect.
I also kind of wonder where they put those Japanese plants on the white sheet. Could that be like a reference to how the Japanese sometimes believe like in actually ending their lives to maintain their honor?
Yeah, like I think in Japan, committing what they call seppuku or suicide is a sort of noble to them. And that's what I think that's a reference to, because his suicide was an exercise in nobility.
Right.
So that's what I think that meant.
And I mean that's when shit really started to hit the fan. I mean everybody was getting tense when they saw the tortillas with their mistakes on it as anybody would, but then at this point things really heat up outside the kitchen.
So the guests freak out, and they wonder if this is all an act or real life. And, sort of putting myself in their shoes, that's what I probably think too, is that this is just some sort of act or performance art or something like that. But it is very real. And Richard tries to leave with his wife, but he gets his ring finger cut off, which is just an excruciating scene to me, especially because of how old he is. He then Slowick has the owner of the island drowned because he had to give him the island for financial reasons. And this is a really cool scene because he's sort of strung up like he's got these angel wings, and he's strung up and he's lowered into a pool and slowly drowned, which is, again, just sort of hard to watch.
It's kind of a... I mean, you got the symbology behind it, right? They were thinking of him as like a fallen angel.
Yeah, that's what I was sort of thinking. And, I really don't know many of the actors' names, except for Anya Taylor-Joy, who is, of course, in Queen's Gambit, Last Night in Soho, Amsterdam, if you've ever seen any of those. And, I know that the actor was the villain in Violent Night, and if you watched the Assassination of Gianni Versace series on FX, the person who played Richard's wife was on that show. And everyone is then brought outside, where Slowick allows himself to be jabbed by one of the chefs he used to harass. I don't know. I don't really see like the stoic, sort of reserved presence that is Chef Slowick being a Harvey Weinstein-esque sexual harasser. That just never really hit the ear right to me, but that's just my personal opinion. And this is where we get to the more Texas Chainsaw-esque part of this movie. Is all the men are allowed a 45-second head start to hide anywhere on the island and try to escape. But his staff try to catch them. Meanwhile, the ladies continue dining with the woman who stabbed Slowick. Everyone gets caught, and the meal continues. I liked the scenes of them running. What I could have used a little bit more of in this scene is an element of suspense. It's a big, open, dark area, and you're being hunted for your very life. I feel like there should be that scene of the staff member looking for one of them, and they're like this close to finding them, but then they don't find them, or something to that effect. I just feel like there wasn't much suspense in the scene, and maybe there wasn't supposed to be, but that's just what I would have enjoyed. And then in the dining room, I believe.
Well, wait, I want to point out how one guy actually almost got away. Like he found a boat on the shore and was taking it out, but two of the guys got him. Like, you know, you really had to feel bad for the poor bastard. I mean, he almost got away. Like, he had his boat on the water. And, yeah.
And, so, I believe in the dining room, the food critic compliments the cooking, and then, she says, at one time I would have found that to be a high honor, which sort of symbolizes how the staff will discredit anyone who criticizes them, as opposed to actually taking, you know, what they say seriously. And then everyone is seated again, and Slowick reveals that they were going to pay for tonight for their mistakes with their lives. He also revealed that Tyler knew that everyone who came to the island would die. And that scene, I love that scene because Margot's face just bubbling with rage as he knew he sent her here to die. That's just heartbreaking. And he is taken to the kitchen and given a chef's jacket to wear. And he tries to cook something, but Slowick is less than impressed and whispers something in his ear that makes a grown man cry. And when we see him next, he is hanging dead from a noose in the pantry. God, this kitchen is very fucking culty. I don't. Mm-hmm. That's just a hard scene to watch. 'Cause like when he's cooking, you can. Sorry, it's no problem. You can like. Okay. You can like feel the eyes on him, and you can. It's just a really uncomfortable scene. And Margot is then asked to retrieve a barrel from the smokehouse to make dessert. But instead of going straight to the smokehouse, she goes to Slowick's house and uses his CB radio to call for help. She then turns around to see Elsa, who tries to kill her. But Margot instead kills her by stabbing her with a knife in the throat. Elsa admits that just before the final blow that she was never assigned to get a barrel, like Slowick said, which assumes Slowick had planned for what happened next, and that Margot was supposed to be killed by Elsa rather than the other way around. And this was one of the scenes that sort of gave into that last girl standing slasher thing. It sort of had that vibe to it. And during all this, Bryce is brought out a cake because it is his birthday. He is not amused, though. That's a funny scene to me. It's just they're just acting like nothing is wrong, but and he gets a birthday cake and he's just completely unamused. Margot then gets back with the barrel, and shortly a ship arrives. Everyone is told to remain silent. A Coast Guardsman, Matthew Cornwell, shows up, and when nothing appears to be wrong, he asks for an autograph. And when watching the scene for the first time, you figure it could go several different directions. He could, they could all be convinced that absolutely nothing is wrong, and he could leave, or completely unaware, or he could discover them, or it could go any direction. But
and it still goes in one you don't expect.
Yeah, and so when he asks for the autograph from George, he writes "Help us" instead of his name, which I think was really smart on his part. But also it's just a really tense scene because of just their desperation. And then the Coast Guardman is just so brazen and tells everybody to get down, and you're thinking, oh shit, he's about to get killed, isn't he? And then when the officer is holding everybody up at gunpoint, he soon reveals that his gun is actually one of those candle things and lights a candle with it, which I think was a pretty fun twist.
And then they're all just like, you have got to be shitting me.
Yeah. So he was part of the plot, I believe. Or I guess. Margot then gets the plan to insult Slowick and ask for a regular cheeseburger. This is a scene you could write 1,000 term papers about. We're told early in the movie you can't send something back if you don't like it, and we don't exactly know why, but you just have to eat what he gives you. But then Margot realizes if she claps and sends back her food, that it'll eventually break him, and if she points out every single thing he does wrong, then it'll break him. And he has, she says that he's an obsessive cook, and there's no love. And we see when she was going through her house, not only the CB radio, but pictures of like him through the years. And when he became successful, he was smiling in none of the photos, but the only time he was smiling was when he worked at a fast food place. And so she does this to bring back the joy of cooking to him. And so he makes her a cheeseburger, and she tries it, and she likes it, but she says she was full and she'd like it to go. And so as his soul sort of breaks, he gives it to her to go, and she's able to leave and escape on the Coast Guard bus. As she leaves, the guests, or the chefs, they all sprinkle the floor with ginger and chocolate and marshmallow cream, and every guest wears chocolate hats and marshmallow vest. And then he reveals what's for dessert. The worst atrocity to the human palate ever contrived, the s'more. And how we, associate this food with somehow some sort of, childhood innocence, even though it's possibly the most synthetic food ever, made. And as he convinces everybody of this, he takes some coal, and this is sort of the initiation scene, where he says his final notes, and then as he says, I love you all, not only do all the chefs, but I'm pretty sure all the guests say it back to him. And
one of them even says thank you before he does it.
Yeah, showing that either they're finally sane or they're finally brainwashed. And early in the movie, we find this sort of undying love and for chefs that they just never get tired. They sleep like 6 hours a day, and they spend their entire day just nonstop working, all for him. And nobody except Margot was ever able to stand up to him, because he was the best at manipulation, but she was the only one who was able to manipulate her. Or him, I mean. But anyway, as the place goes up in flames, the chefs open up the gas valves to make it burn quicker. And then Margot watches as the place explodes. And she finishes her cheeseburger and literally wipes her mouth with the menu, which is just a great ending to a great movie. So, what can I say about the menu? Damn, they don't make them like this anymore. I really like this movie. This has a love of cinema that we don't really see anymore. And this movie really just wanted to make a great movie. And I feel like with the rise of, action movies like Nobody, Bullet Train, Violent Night, and movies like this, like The Menu, or Smile, or Barbarian, I feel like we're finally getting back into original ideas being in the mainstream. Because, movies like Halloween or Friday the 13th, they didn't get, well, maybe not Friday the 13th, they didn't get popular because they were piggybacking off of something else. They got popular because they were just so damn original and good.
Right. You would think that a food-themed horror movie would just be stupid, but they made it work.
Yeah, it was just a great avant-garde piece of film. And, I loved it. I really did. What do you think?
I really liked it. I liked how towards the end, when Margot asked to get her food to go, she said, "I think my eyes were a bit bigger than my stomach," and it's just like, yeah, no kidding. Have you seen her? Her eyes are huge. And I liked how at the end, she was just eating her cheeseburger while the place was going up in flames. I guess just having dinner and a show or something. And,
yeah.
And it's like, as it turns out, that chef, Slowick, he's actually a terrible cook, because at the end of the movie, he burnt literally all the food. So...
And... I'm sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, I did like it overall. I thought it was original, and it was interesting, and what really made it work was that the acting was good. The thing is, with suspense movies like this, where it's just it's slowly leading to the death of just about everyone, it's if the acting just makes or breaks it. If the acting is bad in a movie as suspenseful as this, it's gonna be terrible. But
yeah, it's that X factor that a movie like this needs, and I think all the cast did great.
Yeah, I did too. So yeah, overall, I like this movie. I give it a 9 out of 10.
I would give it a 9 out of 10 too. Well, anyway, I am Jack Ellis.
And I am Matt Ellis.
This has been Oh the Horror. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening.